So as far as DJing, would you consider yourself an open format DJ, correct?
Yes.
And then so people know like that you play a little bit of everything. Talk about your you moved to Arizona to try and pursue DJing out there and just maybe change scenes. Talk about that a little bit and how did that help you at all when you came back? Did you learn anything there as an artist?
I did, but what I learned did not help me in Ohio. So when I went out to Arizona, I basically went from like a slow-paced environment here in Ohio where people like to gather around bars, bars like Brothers, Gasworks, Novak's, Food Hall, Standard, and people don't mind sitting, chatting, and doing things like that. Arizona is like a mini Vegas. You go out on a Thursday, it feels like a Saturday. Bottle service everywhere. The dance floor is barely packed. It's packed, but you have more bottle service. So you have groups of like 20, 25 at tables like every night. It's very, like the nightlife scene is it's much different here. And when I went out there, you could tell it was more house-based at a lot of the clubs in Scottsdale, like Riot House, Bottle Blonde, Mint. Mint was more hip-hop, but a lot of those places were more, hip-hop a little bit here and then like transitioned to a house song. And so I learned that quickly that a lot of the places out there were kind of like on a Vegas vibe as far as that goes. I met some great DJs. Chris Villa, who is phenomenal, great guy. He was fortunate to let me come meet him at a brunch one day and just watch him DJ. Another guy who I'm not like close with or anything, DJR, he's great. And then coming back to Ohio, I try to kind of incorporate the quick mixing into my, my sets, and people were just not feeling it. So I definitely learned quickly that just you got to really continually like read the crowd, and you can't just go off what you think like, oh, like I'm going to quick mix and it's going to be great and people are going to love that. The energy is going to be flowing, but not everybody wants that. So
Leek, I'm really glad James asked that question. I want to ask you a little bit more. I think there's other DJs who probably think about going to different markets, going to bigger markets.
Right.
What do you think? What did you think about the DJ community out there? Was it helpful? Because I knew you grinded for a little bit, networking. And then tell us about your success or not so success with that.
Way different. Like a lot of the DJs out there were very like prima donna-ish, not very approachable, and I don't know. It was kind of weird, man, because a lot of the same guys down there, you would see them at different clubs on the strip, and I thought like being in Scottsdale that you would see different DJs all the time. But no, like it was a lot of the same guys weekly, which I was like very shocked about. One guy, I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not here to throw people on the bus, but one guy was literally from Cleveland, and like it was an Ohio State bar. And I went up. I was like, hey, my name's Leek. I'm looking to maybe get involved in the DJ community. I'm from Ohio. I'm from Northeast Ohio. Medina, Cleveland, very close. Oh yeah. Never hit me back. No advice. No, nothing like that. And not that I was looking for a handout, but at least a little help.
Tips.
And then also, and James, I'm sure you know this. It's tough out there because you have to be with a management group. It's not like you can just go out there and just be like, hey, I'm Leek. I can spin, man. Give me a chance. It's like a lot of those places out there, like they have groups that you're a part of and you have to be involved in, kind of to get put on. I know one guy, I was like, yeah, man, I'd love to open for you sometime. He's like, it's not my call. It's up to, the
booking agent.
It's not like we're at Food Hall. I can be like, hey, Mike, come open up. Or like at Dahlia, if James is like, hey, Leek, come spin for a little bit. It's like, it's not like that at all really down there. So
I don't want to stay here long, but I would feel remiss if I didn't at least talk about George Floyd and everything that's happening in Minneapolis. I don't want to spend longer than 5 minutes on this. This is a DJ podcast. We're here to talk about DJ shit. But at the same time, when life happens and everyone's dealing with something of this magnitude, I think we talk about life and we hear it from the DJ's perspective. So we're not cops. We're not lawyers. We weren't there. But I would like to give all of us a chance to chime in really quick and just, how are you feeling? Are you guys okay? Were you shocked? Just kind of talk about your reaction. And Leek, I want to go to you first.
First, I want to just, say rest in peace to, Mr. Floyd, and condolences to him and his family. And, I just pray for the city of Minneapolis. I actually know someone who's in the thick of it right now, who lives like by that Target. And, it's kind of crazy to think about that, but like I said, I won't get too deep on it, but it's just very disturbing to be able to see this kind of stuff on social media in the first place. But to be African American and to see like this kind of stuff happening constantly is just, it's very upsetting to see like a lot of things aren't changing or haven't changed. That you just hope that people will start to have the conversation of equality moving forward. So, like I said, I just, I try to do the best I can to spread positivity and as much love as I can, and to, make sure I use my voice properly, and that when I do have conversations with people that may be on the opposite side, that I'm not speaking for them to just hear me, but for us to kind of have a dialogue so that we can find some common ground. So, hopefully things change, man. But I mean, just a very just sickening and upsetting situation.
Cool. Ginsu, any words?
Briefly, of course, and thanks for asking. First response after giving it some consideration is, why am I not more shocked? When I see reactions from cultures around the planet, that are like, it blows their fucking minds that something like this could happen in somebody's neighborhood, let alone all the fucking time. So, in summary, it's a series of ridiculous events with no excuses that need to be approached and handled. And, I don't have the answers for that shit, but I know that we as human beings need to speak to each other more, be more open, and share ourselves a little bit more with everyone around us on a daily basis. Because I can't help but imagine that the extremities that brought that man to, create that situation that resulted in another man's death is only from disassociation of culture and people and hearts and, brotherhood, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's offensive and tragic on every level. And it's not the world I like to see. So I try to spend every day sharing that perspective.
James?
Like Leek said, it's really disappointing. And like you asked, are we shocked? Sadly, no, because it's happened before. And it's a problem. And it seems like it's only a problem in this country right now. Today, I thought a lot about like, what can I do? Because I don't know what racism feels like, but I'm not racist. And like, what can I do to help? Like, and I guess the only thing I can think of is just not be silent and, support who needs supported. And I just, if it's unfortunate, hopefully we can get it figured out.
Yeah. Like you guys said, not shocked. I wasn't sure if I was going to say this publicly, but I've been numb to a lot of this stuff, unfortunately. Tupac, who a lot of people know him for his rapping, I like him more as a visionary, more so than a rapper, would say that like he would show up at a hotel and, day one, he's singing like, please give us some food, please give us some food. Day two, it's, hey, please give us some food. Week two, it's yo, give us some food, give us some food. And then, and I'm not going to try and rap like Tupac raps, but, says a year later and he starts like spitting like in his like gangster flow. And he's like, yo, we're breaking down the door, we're getting in it and we want this food. And like, he's like, that's kind of how I feel. We've been marching. We've been talking about this since the 60s. Before that, really, what do we have to do to change it? And that's what scares me, because all of the peaceful protest is not working. And what does that mean for the future? I don't know. I really hope we get it figured out. But I think that's all the time I want to spend on this. Guys, if you have anything in the chat that you want us to talk about, let us know. All right, so James got his segment. All right, I'm just going to preface this because I know James is going to make fun of me, but this is important to me. I want tips for listeners. Part of why we do this is that so we all grow as a community. You guys are both fantastic DJs. I want to know, what's your tip, your secret to DJing that the audience has not heard before? And James will tell you I'm relentless. If it's something we've heard before, if it's something generic, I'll press a little bit. So I hope you guys thought about this a little bit. And I want to start with, I think Ginsu started first. So let's go with Lee.
Oh man, something that's never been said before. I think for me, the key, I feel like I heard Justin talk about this on the podcast. He talked about networking already, didn't he?
That's not a good start, but yeah, you can go ahead.
Honestly, I think the key to being a great DJ is to being open-minded. I'm sure like you may have heard that, but when I say open-minded, like when I first started, and like Mike, I know you had this in the notes, like I played mostly just like stuff I liked. And, stuff I liked was mostly like, hip hop stuff. And so, early on I was playing like Travis Porter, Lil Jon, all that stuff. And then like, I remember like dubstep came out. I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, no way will I ever listen to this stuff. And I actually want to thank Riley for kind of like introducing me to more house and, just more house artists, and taking me to some festivals and, just kind of put me on the right path, because I was not a house fan. Like, no offense to James, but I'd go to Dahlia sometimes. I'm like, I'm going back to BBR. Like this is like when I was younger though. And then like as I got older and I expanded my, my musical horizon, like it just allowed me to be able to play in so many different settings. And like, a place like, when I was at Goody Boy, people are sitting down, like they're having food, like you don't really know what to play. So like the fact that I could go from, some hip hop to some, Billboard pop to, maybe like some chill EDM, things like that. Like it just allows you to connect to so many different people in the room, at one time. But when you keep yourself, closed-minded, and you only want to learn like one genre, then that's as far as you'll go. You only stick to those venues or those type of parties and things like that. So I think if you really want to be a great DJ and you want to, if you're in it for the fun, if you're in it for the money, either way, the best thing to do is just be open-minded with your music.
Open-minded with the music. How was that, Mike? Was that good?
I'll allow it. He had a good follow-up explanation. So I was prepared to shoot it down, but after I heard the explanation, I will, that gets my statement. So Ginsu, what do you think, man? What's your...
Hey, hold on. Next time I see Leek at Dahlia, I'm going to stream my house music over at BBR.
Please do it. Please. Hey, I love house now. Like I'll be right behind you, like having fun.
I know, I'm teasing.
And Jim's gonna get mad at that because BBR, he still gets paid too. So, Ginsu, your tip to or secret to DJing that the audience has not heard before?
They've probably heard all of them. You know what I mean? If they cared enough, they've probably been on YouTube looking for the secrets. So, I just got to come back to love it. Like, if you don't fucking love it, don't do it. It's just going to be work and headaches for you all the time, So number one, love it. Number two, when you're young, getting started, take requests. Don't be that guy. Learn what people want to hear, get it out there. And then depending on where you're going from there, be original, take chances, play your fucking mom's favorite song she used to sing to you when you were a baby. There's probably somebody else that likes it, just go wild once in a while, see if it works. I don't know. I've maintained a career for a lot longer than I anticipated. And that's only because I loved it. I've evolved every day doing it. I never bridled myself to any particular lane per se. You know, just advancing the craft was my gear, and that's just because I love the basic elements there and doing it. So my tip is love it.
Mike,
love
can I ask
the,
you a question?
love the shit out of it. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. What's up? You guys get to nerd out. So we had a listener last week or the week before asked James to talk more about production. And one of the reasons, Ginsu, we wanted to have you was because you are like an engineer's engineer. You know, I've seen your lab, your mad scientist style. Damn, I meant to ask you about your cat story. We might get to that too. But you two just nerd out about production. Me and Leek are gonna, just talk amongst ourselves or something.
Yep.
No, I still want you to come over, Leek, so we can get into Ableton. But
I was gonna say that, man. Yeah, we need to.
I mean, dude, it's been almost 7 years now that when I first started thinking that I knew what I was doing, when I started playing with Ableton and just putting samples together. Me and Rusty were doing it just as a joke, I bought studio speakers. I bought a MP5 or what is it? Not MP5. That's in Warzone.
Damn, you can't wait. Can't wait.
Anyway, I started with YouTube tutorials, basic 101 stuff. I started opening for some big names, Laid Back Luke, Joe Maz. I started asking questions where to start with, and it was DJ edits, making your own edits, making your own bootlegs, transitioning into remixes. I took a master's, the Dead Mouse master's class. Started watching sound design videos, but most of it was experimental for me. Just learning what you want to do, having inspiration. I usually find inspiration from an artist or even just a single track. And I'm still a house music producer. It's still where my heart is with production. I'm always going to be tied into house music and the electronic scene, even though I've converted to an open format DJ because I love all types of music. And one thing I really like to do is flow hip hop with house music. That's kind of like something if you listen to all my edits, my recorded sets from festivals and stuff, that's what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, now I'm trying to learn how to do live scratch loops and stuff. As Mike knows, I've been over to his house. But production was a huge thing for me. I felt like I was at a ceiling. After, my college promotion team kind of disbanded, and I went into a lot of like the 21 and up bars. I felt like I needed an extra piece in my bag. I needed a new weapon. And once I started producing, it became a whole nother addiction on top of DJing. So I think, and that's where Joey is right now. He's addicted to it. My buddy DJ Kenobi. So yeah, man, it's just once you dive in, you're and you spend so much time, you're just going to spend a lot more time, because the more you learn, the more you realize there's more to learn, and then it just gets more enjoyable once you can actually structure some sound and some tracks together.
Yeah, and Ginsu, I don't want to lead you any certain way, man. Just talk about what you do in the production and engineering side. What do you want people to know?
That's a pretty broad statement, but thank you for asking. Yeah. Shit, man. I mean, what I don't really know where to go with that. As soon as this podcast is done, I'll be back, working on the last house track that I was working on at, what was it, 5:70 when I logged in, waiting to see you turn on the stream today. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of production. I've been doing it, since I figured out that turntablism was production, kind of, like I was like, oh shit, I'm making this fresh new thing out of these bits and pieces. Oh no, that's how hip hop was made. Oh no, like I constantly progressing, you know, pretty much every time I go into the studio, like I'll generally start by, you know, my chill out session. We'll start with a random tutorial or two. Again, you know, kind of a broad question. So maybe a cool tip that I can use for people that has, you know, been efficient and productive for me over the years is when you run into roadblocks and, you know, writer's block, stuff like that, you know. One thing that has worked for me well is to search some random element of songwriting or production that I never thought I would do. You know, 10 years ago, that was basic country song, you know, chord structure, something, you know, like something I never thought I would touch. But getting that far out of the box, but still being in that like music production element has led me down some really, really, really cool paths over the years and opened up, you know, a lot of avenues and techniques, etc. I never would have went down. So again, I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but
no, you're fine, man. You know, I'll say this. So I know how I feel like I have a good idea of how good you are at like the mixing and mastering side of things, because you'll take other artists' songs and like clean them up for them, mixing. I do
a fair amount of mastering.
Yeah, so maybe you could talk about when an artist sends you a song, what do you fix most often?
Well, it depends on the genre. If it's a hip hop artist, I usually send it back to them and tell them to cut out a lot of low end. But then, I mean, to like really answer that question, it's open. I approach every single project I do from ground zero. Mm-hmm. I never assume any artist is going to be related to another one. You know, I always request reference tracks, you know. What do you kind of want this to sound like? Do you have an idea of what vein you wanted this tune in? But I have a really like personally artistic approach to every track I work on, which is, like I said, ground zero, blank slate. I'm trying to invigorate this other artist's work to make it bigger than they thought it could be. And to me, as a writer and producer, that's super, super personal to me. You know, I've turned down plenty of projects because I was just like, I can't do it for you. You know, like what you're looking for here isn't going to work, or the files were garbage, you know, more often than not. And there's been plenty of times where the files were garbage, and yet we turned it into this thing that, you know, happened and blossomed and people appreciated. So, you know, my perspective on that is very much in originality, and just every project is 100% different. I of course have, you know, a arsenal of techniques I immediately jump into with any project, you know, the tried and true methods here and there that you dig through all the technical stuff. But you know, that's one thing that's a little different from everyone. So that would be a whole nother conversation there, comparing and contrasting all of that.
Connor, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ginsu.
Oh, you're good.
Connor had a question, and you kind of answered this, but how do you, and maybe James, you can hop in too, how do you guys recommend spending your first hour of a production session? Do you guys have to reset your ears? Ginsu, you mentioned watching a tutorial or two. What advice can you guys offer for Connor? Because I know he's pretty new in the production game, but he's doing all right so far.
I gotta say, if you're super fresh and you don't have like that go-to click mentality for the type of song you're starting to write, then you probably have an idea for the type of song you're trying to write, genre, atmosphere, whatever. So if you don't already have like the skeleton of that genre ingrained in you to the point where you just knock it out, listen to something and start referencing, start copying, you know, literally download the MIDI files for an entire tune or song or something, you know, see what's happening there, dig in. And I think that the question is very dependent, or the answer to the question is relying on where are you at in your education, if you will. If those skeletons to all the styles of music like aren't already in the back of your brain, you know, to the point where you can just knock them out then you should listen and reference a little bit more. If you're already there where you got like those backbones and skeletons of tunes and you can put together whatever you're thinking about, you know, mathematically, I should say, right away, then focus on your sound design. That's the next place you need to go.
Cool. James, anything you want to add to that? How to start a session?
Yeah, every track that I've done in the last few years, I've had some sort of reference track. It usually doesn't even end up in that key, the same key as that track, but you can export, you can drop a reference track into a MIDI and get the melody from it. I mean, you can usually I'll start with melody creation with like a basic synth. I'll go into chord progressions from there. I'll set up a drop melody and the sounds aside from that. Like you said, whatever the genre is, have some sort of reference or inspiration that you kind of already have, so you already know what you're gonna go try, and have some sort of plan. If you can just naturally create melodies, man, more power to you, because I can't do that. If you could just if you just have a melody in your head and you can just plot it down on the MIDI, that's great. But reference tracks are huge.
For sure. You know, I think I would say like a very crucial statement regarding you know, amateurs or young producers is get over all the bullshit about sampling, referencing, biting, stealing, da 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 da. Don't wait for 10 years for you to realize it's all been done before, you know? Reference shit. James, you nailed it.
Well, because you're not, by the time you come out with your piece, it's not going to be like anything. Like, I've been there where I've tried to create Dead Mouse Ghost and stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure,
It doesn't work out. You're not going to create somebody else's art. So you might as well just reference and, you know, learn.
Let's see. I want to ask one more question to Leek, and then we'll go into show and tell. Leek, you mentioned wearing like a bunch of hats and doing things outside of DJing. You've been running Just Breathe for what, a year, 2 years now? I've been following that pretty closely. Why is mental health so important to you? And Just Breathe, and how does like what you talk about in Just Breathe relate specifically to DJs? How can DJs use what you talk about in Just Breathe, not just in the general sense?
Oh man, where to even start? For me, I just got to this point in my life, and I just want to first start by saying that a lot of people think that anxiety and depression are these cases or these diseases that have to be so severe for people to have them. You know, like you'll be like, oh, I have anxiety. And people are like, there's no way you have it. It's like, well, why don't I? It's like, well, you don't seem like you have anxiety. Okay, well, anxiety is not like a pimple that grows on your face. You know, it's very internal. But there are also ways that people show it externally as well. You know, I faced anxiety a lot when I was in college, and not really sure where it stemmed from. I think just when you're at that age and you're trying to figure out so much, and you're trying to figure out life and where you want to go, what you want to do. And then when you put yourself in the entertainment industry, especially at a young age, and I'm not saying like I was in like Hollywood or Vegas or anything like that, but you know, long nights and being out all the time. And as your career grows, you kind of almost have to fit this, you know, image that you've grown into as a DJ. But at the same time, you're like, well, hey, like that's just what I do. It's not necessarily who I am. And, you know, I think for me growing up, you know, I was running track, I was DJing, and I was trying to be a student. And I think I was getting tugged so many different ways that, you know, I just became more anxious and depressed when I couldn't hit certain, you know, checks on like my goal list and things like that. And so I kind of just, you know, said to myself one day, I was like, hey, like, I don't want to continually feel like this. Like, this has to change. Like, I refuse to continually, like, you know, be this way. And so I started reading more quotes every day before class, and I started watching motivational videos. And that was like when I was younger, just doing small stuff. And then as time went on and I heard more about mental health and I learned more about it, I became more interested in, you know, how the mind works and why people do certain things and just like, you know, the psychology behind it. And when I moved out to Arizona, you know, I was always posting quotes and videos on my Instagram page, and I saw the impact that it was having on people from afar and through a screen. And I was like, man, I would love to get people in person and really have more of an impact on them. And I was like, well, how can I do that? And the way that Just Breathe came to me one day, I was like cooking, and it's funny how this happened. I was cooking and things were just, I was all out of whack and I was just stressed out with stuff going on. And I like told myself, I was like, man, like just breathe for a second. And I was like, man, like, that's perfect. That's it. Like, just breathe. And I brought it back to Columbus, and, you know, I introduced the idea to my friends, and, you know, they were very supportive of it. And our first meeting, we had like maybe like 5-6 people at Woodlands backyard. Shout out to AJ for letting us host the first one there. And we kind of knew that wasn't the vibe for it. You know, we wanted it to be something like just casual, and, you know, you could come, you could get a drink, and we could talk about mental health, but those two things didn't really correlate, you know, so we moved it into more private space. And, you know, at first, you know, we had like catered food, and it was great. And then as time went on, like, we went from like 10 people to 12, 15 to 20 to 23, and things like that. So now we have an Instagram page. We, you know, once this is all over, we'll get back to meeting like twice a month. We've had people share some deep stuff in there, man, like stuff I can't repeat out loud, obviously, but it's been great just to see the impact that it's had on just even a small group of people. So,
and it's Mental Health Awareness Month, right?
I believe so. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
I have not been on like social media and stuff a lot lately.
That's all right, man. I won't agree for it. But the timing is perfect because Bass Daddy, a.k.a. Richie Tell, just got here. And he is on the planning committee for Home Alone, which was a festival dedicated to healthcare workers and the Mid-Ohio Food Bank last month. And then next month in June, they are actually dedicating the festival to mental health. I don't want to share too many details without his permission, but just know that guy is also like you, very interested in mental health and being kind of a leader in the community for other people. So Bass Daddy, again, Richie Tell, he's in the chat right now if you guys have any questions.
I agree.
Guys, where can people find you?
Go ahead. I'll let you start.
It's Ginsu. Just look up Ginsu. Ginsu Von Mixwell, Facebook, Scralala, Instagram, Ghost Gardens fam. Ghost Gardens, my best friend's party, you know, like
Hey.
I'm on my level is more like individually spiritual kind of thing at this point in my career. I work with a lot of people, do a whole lot of things, but at the end of the day,
I'm jealous.
At the end of the day, you know, every day is a new day to me, trying to bring it to that next point. So,
Dude, I'm jealous.
Search around for Ginsu, you'll find me.
You don't have to worry about DJing at a place because of their dress code.
Been there plenty of times, though.
I believe it. You can find me at _Leek Official on Instagram and the DJ Leek _ on Twitter. And then that's all I have for now. You know,
I got to check these TikToks.
Yeah, maybe you're into these Just Breathe. If people want to find Just Breathe, how do they find that?
You can go on Instagram, Just Breathe. I think it's _Just Breathe 1. I'm back on there updating, posting new quotes, and you know, definitely just putting out some good content just to, you know, keep people in high spirits, especially, you know, we're about to come out of this pandemic. And I think that what people don't realize is that the transition from trying to go back to normal is not going to be normal. And I think a lot of people's psyches and their minds are going to be messed with because they're going to try to figure out this new way of life. So I think, you know, we're definitely going to need some positivity and to uplift people and just, you know, be understanding and have the conversations moving forward. So